Whether you're picking and grinning or just picking or just grinning, grab a drink, pull up a seat. It's time for Roots Music Rambler. Turn it up. So it's been a while since we recorded, and most people don't know that, because we do these things every 2 weeks. So we could record 3 or 4 shows in 1 week and then not talk to each other for 2 months. But it's been a while since we recorded, and so we haven't had the opportunity to catch up recently on live shows that we've seen. I know in at least the last few weeks, you've caught up with a couple of friends of the show. And so where you been? What you been watching?
Yeah, beginning of April, my friend Lindsay and I went to Cubs opening day, just hanging out in Wrigleyville. We didn't actually go to a game, but we went because Waco Brothers were playing. And, I've talked about the Waco Brothers and how much fun they are. So we were out in Wrigleyville that day. And then that night, Nathan Graham was playing at a distillery that is actually close to where I live, which is unusual because I'm on the south side and there's not really a whole lot of music that I like, that comes out this way. But Nathan played at Thornton Distilling, and it was awesome. It was a really good show, and I probably drank way too much, but we had a good time. And then we hung out for a little bit too with Nathan, and I think then I didn't see any live music until Tom and I went down to Seymour, Indiana for the Crossroads Acoustic Music Festival, which was surprisingly, I shouldn't say surprisingly, like I knew that we would have a good time, but we had a really good time, and the music was really great. We did get to see and hang out with Leon Meitzen. He played like 3 different sets that weekend, and we caught 2 of them. Another one interfered with another band that's from your neck of the woods they're based there now, that I really wanted to see again. So I may talk about them again later. So I'm not gonna,
Okay.
I'm not gonna ruin the surprise.
I got you.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Leon's sets were so awesome. And I think a lot of people didn't know who he was at the beginning of the festival, but by the end, he had a whole slew of new fans. So got to, catch up with him and hang out and have a couple drinks with him. And yeah, I think that's earlier this month in May, I went to Sunvolt. Sunvolt played at Fitzgerald's. It was the first. So Fitzgerald's, we've talked about plenty of times. They now have National Historic Landmark status. And so they built like a pavilion sort of outdoors. And you've seen Fitzgerald, so like there's that open area in the middle, like it's a kind of like a campus.
Yep.
So they put a covering, a wood like pavilion type thing. And so that Sunvolt show was the first outdoor show at Fitzgerald's, like officially with the new construction and everything. So that was a lot of fun. It was cold. It was chilly. And my friend Michelle, who I went with, and Lucia also went. So that was fun to share my favorite band with her. But I was not happy with the sound. Like, if I didn't know every Sunvolt song and know all the words to every Sunvolt song, I wouldn't have had any clue what they were saying or what they were singing.
Interesting.
And maybe it's just where I was positioned, that the sound wasn't reaching me that well, but I felt like the vocals were not high enough. So I was disappointed in that. And Michelle agreed with me, but I was reading, social media comments and stuff. And so many people were like, "Oh, the sound was great." And I'm like, is it me? Like,
Are you going deaf?
am I? Which is very possible with all the shows I go to. And, cautionary tale, kids, you should be wearing those earplugs. I don't. So, but yeah, like I wasn't happy with the sound. So we're seeing Drive By Truckers there in July. 2 shows, possibly 3. They're playing 3 nights at Fitzgerald's Outdoors. We definitely are going to 2, but hopefully by then it's rectified,
Sure.
So, but I mean, it was still enjoyable. Of course, it's Sunvolt, got to see John Horton,
Yeah.
friend of the show.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think that's it. But I got a few coming up Leon Meitzen is coming to town. He's opening for Drayton Farley. And it's at a new venue in Chicago called Garcia's that I'm really excited to see. Haven't been there yet. So I think that's it.
That sounds about right. I knew you saw Leon and I knew you saw Sunvolt. I figured you'd want to talk about Sunvolt for a little bit. Since we last talked, my buddy Joe and I ventured to the caverns
Yeah.
in rural Tennessee to see 49 Winchester and Town Mountain,
Oh,
which was fantastic. 49 Winchester is just I'm telling you, if you appreciate Southern rock, little country, little country twang to it, but really kind of a good Southern rock band. Very reminiscent of, Marshall Tucker and Leonard Skinner a little bit and the Allman Brothers. I mean, Isaac Gibson's just incredibly talented, a great songwriter, and they just have some good. He reminds me a lot of the Charlie Daniels band because they don't just play
okay.
country; they play a lot of rhythm and blues, a lot of, just songs that are just rock and roll with a little bit of twang. And I just love 49 Winchester, and they were so good. The Caverns is a really interesting experience. If you ever have the opportunity to head down there, it's not too far from the University of the South, Sewanee, down there, almost
Oh,
almost to Chattanooga. If you're coming from Nashville
yeah.
going toward Chattanooga, they're on, I think that's I-40. But man, that was such a fun night. And what was really cool about the Caverns is the bands actually have to walk into the caverns the same way the public does. So at some point, the security comes through, pushing everybody out of the way, and then they kind of go back into this little hole in the cavern wall and go around to the backstage area. So after Town Mountain goes and plays and comes off and 49 Winchester goes on, at one point my back kind of locked up. It was standing room only, and so I needed to sit
Mhm.
down. The only place to sit down was like out by the merch tent, which is more outside. You can still see a little bit and hear everything fine, but I had to go back outside. So I'm sitting there and like the Town Mountain guys just start wandering by and wandering in. I'm like, "Hey, what's up? Good set, guys." So I got to talk to a couple of those guys a little bit, which
Nice.
was neat. That's the second time I'd seen them play. And then my son and his girlfriend and I went to Renfro Valley to see Marcus King for the fifth time for me in the last 9 months or so. So got to see Marcus King again, which was cool. But the two kind of back to back big, events in April, May for me, Dwight Yoakam and the Mavericks here in Louisville at Iroquois Amphitheater. Fantastic show. Dwight was great. The Mavericks were better than I thought they would be, and I thought they would be really good. They are super entertaining. Oh my God, so
I
much fun.
really wanna see them.
They're
Yeah.
they're they're very good. I highly recommend, even if you don't know anything about the Mavericks, just go. Raul Mello's voice is phenomenal. They are exquisite players. I don't know the guy's name. I've forgotten the guy's name, but their accordion player is a showman. I mean, he puts on a damn show. So go see the Mavericks. They were phenomenal. I think they're doing
Nice.
a bunch of dates with Dwight still on his cosmic whatever he's doing tour. And then just last weekend, also at Iroquois Amphitheater, I finally checked off the bucket list and got to see the incomparable Bonnie Raitt, which was fantastic. The only thing I didn't like about that show was that she insists that you do not use your phones and take photos.
Oh, yeah.
Got to keep your phones put away, and they were pretty strict about that. I snuck a couple in, so I got a couple pictures, but she was every single note was perfect, both from her voice and her guitar, and just a fun night of really good music, and wow, she was great. My buddy Mark Murdoch and I
Nice.
went to that show together, so had some good live music here over the last few weeks to roll us into festival season and all that good stuff, so a lot of stuff coming up too, so fun times.
Awesome.
Yeah, good stuff.
Very nice.
And I'm sure we'll have more to talk about as we roll through the summer times. I know I've got a few shows lined up here in the next few weeks. I think you've got plenty coming up with Fitzgerald's and all the places you go. So more stuff
Yep.
to talk about, which will be fun. Speaking of
Sure.
speaking of stuff to talk about, welcome to Roots Music Rambler, by the way. She's Frank.
And he's false.
And we're rambling on through the stories behind the music we love.
And today on the show, we are going to listen to an interview that Jason did recently with Irish singer-songwriter Mark Geary. He played not too long ago at the Monarch music community in Louisville. And Jason, you got to chat with him before his set, right?
That's right. Yeah, Mark made a quick, kind of a long weekend trek to Louisville, I think with a stop in New York along the way back to Dublin on the tail end of a whirlwind weekend. But he played the Monarch and actually had an act called Mary and Jackson. They're kind of a new duo. They opened for him. And Jackson, the Jackson half of that duo, is kind of the main man at Mark's record label, sonaBlast Records. So it was kind of neat getting to meet Jackson and Mary as well. But Mark and I sat in the rehearsal space upstairs before the show and talked about everything from his influences to songwriting and all sorts of other things. So my apologies to Frank and to all of you for her not being involved in the interview, but it was very much an opportunity to just do something in person. So I jumped on it there at the Monarch.
I get it. That was like when I got to talk with Jay Gonzalez when Drive By Truckers were in Bloomington, Illinois. But, just don't do that sort of thing to me. Should we book, like, I don't know, Patterson Hood or somebody along those lines? Okay.
Yeah, same here. You don't get to do Patterson Hood solo either. So
Okay, deal.
But it was kind of a fun coincidence, and you'll actually hear during the interview. Mark mentioned collaborating and playing with Cait a couple of times. Well, that was a reference to his fellow sonaBlast artist and friend of the show, Cait Justice, who was on an episode not too long ago. She actually popped in the room while we were recording, so I just kind of cornered her into saying hello. So she makes her second little cameo appearance here anyway on Roots Music Rambler too.
And I haven't met Cait in person, but she seems like the type of person who wouldn't be upset
No.
to, be cornered into saying hello. Like, she seems very laid back and fun loving. So that's awesome. And I'm really interested to hear this interview because, I love Irish music, trad music. So I'm really looking forward to hearing his story, Mark Geary's story, and his influences.
Well, I certainly asked him about him. It was a really fun chat. He's very charming, very personable guy. So it was a good hang, and I'm glad y'all get to hear it today.
Yes. All right. So we'll also have our normal Pickin the Grinnin segment. So be sure to stick around once the interview ends.
Yeah, and I'm actually lathered up to hear this. So it's time for a refill. We're going to take a quick break. Take a moment, if you will, to listen to more about the awesome sponsors that help make this show happen. When we come back, you'll hear my recent conversation with singer-songwriter Mark Geary. Don't go away. This is Roots Music Rambler.
Oh my God, it's the coolest thing ever. Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? Well, check this out. It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. They ship Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garten's famous cakes. Seriously. So if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT.
Join us in the forest, softly underfoot. Meet us at the clearing, you should. I was pretty beat down, I thought you'd come along. I'm singing all your sad songs wrong.
That's The Forest by Mark Geary from his latest album, In the Time of Locusts, an album you'll hear more about in my recent chat with the Irish singer-songwriter. The Monarch music community here in Louisville gracefully allowed me to come in and interview Mark before his headline show there recently. So a big thanks to Mark Roberts and the community at the Monarch. Here's the first half of my chat with Mark Geary. So first of all, welcome back to the U.S.
Thank you.
How long you been in town?
About a day and a half.
Yeah.
Feels like the jet lag kind of kicked in last night, and I was on stage and I felt like I was talking the gibberish, but yeah, about a day and a half. So I've done one show.
How long are you in the States for?
I leave on Monday.
Oh, wow. So you're just hearing back.
So I go to I lived there for some years in New York. So I do a show there in the kind of, it's almost like a hometown gig in New York, and I play in Jersey and Boston. Okay. And then Monday morning they'll pour me into an airport somewhere with a rosary bead and holy water, and somehow back to Ireland. Yeah.
Now, I know you lived in New York for quite some time. When did you move back to Ireland, and how often do you get back to the States?
Usually twice, 3 times a year. I lived in New York for maybe 16 years all in. Mm-hmm. I don't need to tell you the simpatico, the kind of bloodstream that America and Ireland have and has always. I'm always thinking of America. It gave me, like, oh my God, the debt I have to New York and the people that I met there is enormous. I'm like, absolutely enormous, you know.
Did you grow up wanting to come to America to play, or was that just advice someone gave you? Was that an aspiration or just a path?
I mean, when I think about it now, hindsight 2020, I marvel at the madness. Like it was a one-way ticket.
Yeah.
There was a time, and interesting in the world we live in now, but there was a time, there was a Senator Donnelly and a Senator Morrison. Irish people were what they called undocumented here. And there was this kind of grassroots kind of, they're all paying taxes, they all have family, they all are working. How do we make it kind of just go away, or make it easier and not be so cruel, you know? The panic. I mean, we live in a world of ICE agents now, and we have all of that stuff going on, which is pretty frightening. But okay, so Morrison and Donnelly, the senators, said, let's create an amnesty. Everyone can put their name into the hat. If your name comes out, you'll go through the process of becoming a resident alien. Mm-hmm. So I'm in Dublin. My brother has this little cafe called the Sinead Cafe. Mm-hmm. Jeff Buckley, all of like that place. Yeah. And all I want to be is in New York. Mm-hmm. I don't care how I have to get there. But as far as me, to answer your question, as far as me being a musician and with some aspirations that I'm going to go there as a musician, I'm just going there. Yeah. There was a time in Ireland where the graffiti on the wall was, would the last person out of Ireland please turn out the light? You know, like it was brutal. Yeah. It was absolutely kind of hopeless. Yeah. And as a teenager, you know, having grown up with Woody Allen and Scorsese and all these, like, America was absolutely the Mecca. It was the place, not to become anything, but just to be cool, just to be, you know. So that's how I arrived. I arrived on a one-way ticket with no money. That night I bartended. Wow. People were, Mark, you're going to bar back. I was like, does that mean I'm on the shoulder of, like, what is a bar back? How am I a jockey? What am I doing? Yeah. Like, and then I realized I'm slinging drinks, yeah, and I'm getting ice and I'm chopping lemons and limes or whatever. And it's wild. To this day, 30 years later, yeah, I can walk into any bar and go, I can work here. Yeah. I know what's happening. You know, do you want me to get some ice? You got a backup plan. Oh my God. They say that 1/3 of the American population will have worked the service industry at some point in their life, right? Mm. So that means there's 1/3 of the population walks into any restaurant and goes, they're busy. Oh yeah. I think I need to help the hostess. Yeah. I think I need that, you know. I did 3 weeks at an Olive Garden, and it's not in my skill set. I'm terrible. I'm a terrible waiter. Okay, but Olive Garden is also terrible. So that's a good point. that's very, very good. Very good point. So let's go back to the beginning. So tell me a little bit about where you grew up, and
where music came to you or where you came to music. What are your earliest memories of, oh, that sounds good, I want to do that?
Well, that sounds good, I want to do it, came much later.
Okay.
But music, absolutely. I come from a family of 10, and music was just, not anyone playing.
Right.
We weren't creative people. But music was so important. My brothers came back with singles and vinyl and spending their weeks' wages on Woodstock and, these amazing. And then I had sisters who were older, so it was Joan Baez, it was Dylan, it was all. So I had this vinyl lying around, and it didn't seem like a lot of people were that interested in it, but I was interested. So that's my earliest memories of just knowing that this was the stuff I wanted to listen to. And I was talking about it a couple of days ago. You can be lucky in two ways, and maybe I have to do some kind of heavy lifting to make this work. But my analogy is that you can be born into a very privileged world where daddy is going to buy you a violin. He's going to give you the lessons and whatever. And if you're inclined and talented, then, here's the path. But imagine what it's like to have absolutely no access to anything, like absolutely creativity and art, and it's all gone. It just doesn't exist in your world. My father was a bricklayer, 10 kids in a family, you know what I mean? Like just hanging in there. But imagine what it feels like to be exposed to music living in there. Yeah. And so in desperation, there's a great story where the Beatles all get on a bus and go find the guy who knows how to play a B7. They get on a bus. Yeah. Because they need that B7 to kind of tie in the whole song, And I absolutely relate to it, because I did not have music or creativity, and interestingly, my brother and I, who are the two youngest of my family, became creative.
Nice.
So we went out starving to death for, oh my God, what is that? Mm-hmm. Explain that to me. Who's that book by? I don't know that guy. So all I did was I became a sponge. And when I got to New York, oh my God, the sponge just got bigger.
So did you play before you came to New York?
I played in the way people would play, hiding in their bedroom, being afraid of, but what the hell is this? Or like, what do you mean? There's a great line, is that a real song or one you wrote yourself? Right. Right? And that's not cruelty. That's not someone being cruel. That's just like, I have no concept of the fact that you would write a song and it's a legitimate song. A song is songs on the radio. Right. So yeah, I just became a sponge. I certainly was sitting in the bedroom and scribbling and had little thoughts and tried to figure things out and go like, oh, okay, so that's an E minor, and why is that Beatles song so great? Why is that melody so fabulous? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, so they're in E, and then they moved, and that's so cool, and then that groove and that guitar sound and all of that. Yeah. So my ears got good. Yeah. I think that's what happened.
That's probably half the battle for a good musician.
Yeah.
So tell me about, when did you start playing? Who taught you how to play? Did you teach yourself? How did the evolution of that come about?
It's all self-taught, and I would go to guitar shops and little music things, and there was like songbooks, and I would take songbooks home, and songs that I kind of vaguely knew, I'd kind of figure it out, That's all I did. I didn't have any formal kind of thing. I didn't. But then I thought like, oh, okay, because playing guitar is kind of a plateau. You learn the bar chords and you learn finger picking, and it's a lot of agony and a lot of kind of just trying to get it. But I was diligent, and to say I was looking for a sound or trying to find my voice or all of that's the biography. That's the that's the hallmark movie of what most people do. It's not true.
Right.
You're just trying not to suck. You're just you're just trying to get through a song.
Right.
Irish in Dublin or whatever, you have parties and I learned very quickly, oh my God, if I show up with a guitar and I've got a couple of songs that maybe people might sing along with. My God, I might even get to talk to a girl, and I might, like, absolutely.
Yeah.
All it, like, the greatest motivation, I think I'll study this,
Yeah. Isn't that the root of the motivation of every musician?
Well, I don't want to throw everyone under the bus like that, but whatever. But I don't think it's an untruth to say, for all of the motivation of, I can do this and then maybe someone might pay attention to me. There's a reason I think that if you're lacking in something or a certain kind of confidence or maybe you feel things a little bit more sensitively, then this is a good way to kind of counter that.
Yeah.
I think it's a kind of way.
Yeah,
That's
fair.
Hey, I learned music to get chicks. I mean, that's a terrible.
But I like the way you put it though, because getting attention, whether it's like you want your voice to be heard, you want to tell your stories, doesn't have to be about getting the girl or getting the guy. It can also be about just expressing yourself, having an audience.
Yeah, and then also it's like, all right. I've stood in rooms, in venues, and okay, Mark, you have a voice. What do you have to say? And you go like, oh my God, I have nothing. I have nothing. So you need to live in life. You need to have some kind of learned experience or whatever, or sing about the fact that you're lost, or sing about the fact that you're terrified, or nothing makes sense. But it's all well and good to go, I was just kind of finding my voice and to express it. And then you stand up on the stage and people go, okay, this is seemingly what you're asking for. Tell us what you have to say. And you go, oh, wow, I got to back this up. I actually have to be saying something. Like, what is your manifesto?
So walk me down that road a little bit. When did you start to develop your own, like, storylines or manifesto or the things that you wanted to say through your music?
Well, what I started to do was I just really started to pay attention to the little phrases that I found that was unique to me, in the cliched finding your voice. And by finding your voice, we can all sing in key, we can all do the chorus and the verse or whatever. But what makes you unique? And none of it has to do with musicianship and cleverness and all of that. So I really started to just, again, I mean, my ears, I think, saved my life. I just started to just get kind of almost giddy, just with little phrases and little lines that I just was amused by. And I'm referencing, New York gives you all of that. I mean, my God, if you can't get a reference walking one day around Manhattan, the people you see, the colors, the madness, just all of it, So and I was working in restaurants and I was bartending and then every night I would go to these open mics or hootenannies or anything. I just was just plugged in.
Yeah.
Like it was a kindergarten for me.
Yeah.
And then I was talking to Cait earlier, a singer here in Louisville, and it's so wild. It's the same conversation. She was saying like, well, here's 30 songs that I'll delete. Here's 6 that I'm really happy with. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
That's not a bad batting average, to use the baseball. It really isn't. So you just keep leaning into, oh my God, can I do that again? Yeah. So that's what that. And then I started to play and do gigs, and as I said, my brother had the cafe. And there'd be 100 people there. It was free in. So it was you. And what was wild, having just watched the Dylan movie again, a lot of what is shown in A Complete Unknown, the Timothée Chalamet movie, a lot of what was in that movie was still there in the 90s when I got to New York.
Nice.
Still there, like cafe where you could play there.
Yeah.
And they were living on the fumes, but still,
Yeah.
it was, okay, here's a room, there's your tip jar, get to work, you know? What an unbelievable, and that's not everyone's journey. That's just how it happened for me,
Right.
you know? So I think I got comfortable on stage. I got comfortable telling stories. I got comfortable. I mean, come on. I mean, how hard can it be? I'm an Irish guy in New York. You know what I mean? With a guitar?
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, you know, you really have to fail badly to not make. So I got a confidence that was beyond me. It didn't come from anything artificial. It just felt really kind of organic.
Right.
I'd done 1,000 gigs, and you can spot a band or spot a guy or a girl who has walked 1,000 gigs.
Yeah.
Some of them, most of them are brutal,
Yeah.
and you survive them and you go again.
Mm-hmm.
That gives you a certain kind of armor, a certain kind of swagger. You know, you're kind of battle scarred.
Yeah.
You know.
Let's step away from my conversation with Mark Geary to hear a bit more of his wonderful songs as we go to and come back from break. We'll go out with Old Susanna. The second half of my chat with Mark Geary is coming up next. Don't go away. This is Roots Music Rambler.
Oh, Susanna, why you wanna break my heart in two? The ship we sailed upon a gale, shipwrecked all the crew. It's only love, it's only love. We do the best we do, but the winds have turned against us much too soon. Oh, Susanna, how I wonder why your lips are blue. The warm embrace has been replaced. I stand on the ship of fool. It's only love, it's only love.
Morning decisions. A creamy mocha frappuccino drink? A sweet vanilla? Maybe a smooth caramel? Or that white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Start your day with bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drinks. Pick up a bottle near you wherever you buy your groceries.
All my nights are quiet, days don't work for me. All the kids want parties, yearning to be free. That's the thing about us, the thing about us. I've learned when we play with fire, fire's gonna burn. Sally don't have worries, Sally never cares.
Welcome back to Roots Music Rambler. That is a cut called The Great Escape from Mark Geary's latest album, In the Time of Locusts. Let's jump back into my conversation with Mark, recorded at the Monarch Music Community here in Louisville. I'm curious, your influences. I mean, you mentioned the Beatles, and you can assume a lot.
Yeah.
I'm assuming a lot of your influences were from popular music, but I wonder what your influences were in general, and then how Ireland influenced your songwriting and your experiences.
Great question. So all of the experience of all the kind of the musical kind of things that are thrown at you, every band is rolling through New York, and you know, so I'm definitely hip to all of that. I think what I started to pay attention to, when two things happened. I realized all of that literature of the immigrant all of the Irish story of all of that passage, and that I'm part of that whole diaspora, that whole kind of since the famine and before and after. I started to pay attention to that, and I think I really paid attention to, and I do it to give the game away. What I do in my songs is I have McCartney's kind of melody, but I have melancholy. So the saddest lyrics, like really kind of, I just love that knife to go into the side as you're singing a really beautiful kind of melody. There's something, I think there's something, and I don't do it as a device. I had to pay attention to what I was doing. And so there's a melancholy, there's an ache and a sadness in Ireland and Irish music.
Sure.
That is just like, we cry at the wedding, we laugh at the funeral. It's so upside down. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, I'm blessed that's my head. It really is completely how I think. Freud said there were two kinds of people: those you could psychoanalyze and the Irish.
That's a great one. You'll appreciate this. So I was going through and just writing some notes about your songs, which I'll get into in a minute.
Yeah.
And Oh Susanna.
Oh yeah.
This is the note that I wrote: playful guitar and melody with sad lyrics.
Yeah. Well, there. Okay. So yeah. So I fessed up to it before you nailed me on the.
That's Mark Geary.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, I with Oh Susanna, I it was during lockdown, and I was reading these kind of Greek tragedies, but they're rewritten by women. So they've kind of reimagined all of the heroes. So it isn't Achilles and Patroclus and all these kind of dudes. It's Circe and the women and whatever. And then I just started writing, and then Oh Susanna. Well, Susanna as a word, to sing is delicious because it's so musical, and then I'm on the ocean. I'm doing the Odyssey. I'm doing that's what I was doing, and the ship and all of it. Like, there's so many. We have so many words in our language, in the English language, that is maritime based. Under the weather, for instance, right? When you were under the weather, you were brought down to the bow of the ship because you were feeling unwell. So you were taken away from the weather. You're under the weather. What's the one? Keeping the toe on the line.
Toe on the line.
Toe on the line. Toe on the line is just that you're sober. That was the job interview. Is he upright? Okay, he's working. Yeah. But and I remember I've always been that kind of, and wild because I did nothing in school. My mother went to a PTA meeting and they'd never heard of me. I just was never there.
Yeah.
And as soon as I left, I was a sponge. So writing and literature and I just was mad about just everything, curious and yeah.
So Time of the Locusts, album's been out for a little while.
Yeah.
As we've described here, a lot of playful melodies with sad lyrics. I read somewhere, correct me if I'm wrong, you recorded this in a cottage in a forest. Is that right?
My cottage.
Your cottage.
I live just outside of Dublin in Kildare, which is the county next to Dublin. And it was during lockdown, so I had a piano player come. She plays with my friend Glenn Hansard and Sam Smith. She's just done an album with him. And she came, and I thought, a lot of the time, it's scraps of paper, it's you on your own, and you're trying to figure it out. And I thought, maybe, what would it be like to just have a musician looking at you going, get it together? Like, eyeball to eyeball, almost McCartney and Lennon, really, that's how they... But that it would be a piano and that she would respond to some of the ideas or whatever. And I write on a microphone. I write in studio.
Okay.
I have all of the stuff that I write down, and I'll go off and know that I haven't quite hit what I wanted to say. But I've got comfortable with musicians I trust. With producers, I can be awful with,
Right.
you know, and and the fact that everything is mobile now. You can bring a studio to wherever it is, wherever you want to go. So I said, well, you guys come and set up the studio, and I'll do the cooking because I love cooking, and we'll work that way.
Sweet.
So that's what I did. I recorded. That's so the albums, the drums, everything is recorded there. Yeah.
So did they, in looking at that album or listening to that album after you were done, what was your reaction in comparison to your previous albums? Is it like, oh, I'm never going to record here again, or I'm always going to record here again? Was there something special about being at home in that space?
Well, definitely, but also, you know, you have to remember, like, the reason it's called the time of locust. So, you know, lockdown was happening, COVID was happening, the plague had arrived, you know.
Yeah.
But then what's interesting is that as a writer, there is always lockdown. I need to get all the notes and get all the scraps of paper, and I need to retreat into the back cave to really focus, because if I don't, it'll just be more scraps of paper and whatever. Yeah. There has to be a gun to my head. So the lockdown, as difficult as it was familiar to me to a degree. It was like, oh, it's this thing. I need to go off and kind of start to write and whatever. So it was kind of it was an amazing time and whatever. And I certainly felt very comfortable in the cottage. I tell you what I've never done. I was talking to Cait again and Jackson. Like, I've never been super techie. I've never had the home studio. I've never had the lovely microphones at home.
Right.
So when I go somewhere to a studio, my brain immediately goes work mode.
Yeah.
Okay. Gun to the head stuff.
Yep.
Okay, we're here to work, and I get really excited about it. We're sitting here, and I'm looking at drums, and I'm looking at, and I go like, oh my God, you know, because that's not what my little cottage looks like. It looks like a little Hansel and Gretel thing in the middle of a forest, and very inspiring. But I have to say, I lived looking at a window in New York in the East Village. I opened my window, if I could open it, to a brick wall, an inch from the window, and I wrote there.
Yeah.
So, you know, sometimes there is this idea, oh, it must be so inspiring. Maybe the inspiration might come 6 months later or whatever. I don't necessarily feel that explosion of inspiration when I'm sitting by a lake. I'm just very happy to be at the lake.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have the pen and paper there beside me. You know, I can kind of write anywhere. I learned how to do that.
That's good. I actually had a couple conversations recently with some artists we've had on the show about one of them. I don't recall exactly who said it's almost impossible for me to write when I'm on the road. So I have to be stationary. I have to be away from the business of being a musician to be inspired. But then I've heard others say, oh, I write in my head while I'm driving.
Yeah. So all of those statements are absolutely true, and all of them are untrue. You know, you think that you can't be inspired on the road because there's too much stimulus. There's just too much going on. And then until you pick up the guitar and something pops out, and all you're doing is you're a magpie. You're just grabbing things and whatever. I did notice that I can jump on my bicycle and I can hum a little melody and get to the supermarket. And by the time I've come back, I've got the lyric I've been working on. I'm not really working on it, but I really need to be at the supermarket. I'm not using the bike as a device, but I absolutely, when Ruth O'Mahony, who playing the piano, or Glenn will be sitting there and say like, let's jump on the bike and we go to the shop and come back. By the time I came back, I'd have figured out the correct lyric. Yeah. You know, move a muscle, change a thought.
Yeah.
Not that whole. Yeah. No. So I did actually do that, where I was like singing to I probably looked like a crazy person, but just singing to myself back and forth from the supermarket.
Sure.
Yeah.
Somebody in Dublin's got some stories to tell.
I'm sure it was
this weird guy at the cottage.
That guy. It's that guy. And it's funny because, you know, Irish people are, it's a really lovely thing. And I think maybe, I think Louisville has, it certainly feels very familiar to me, where there's a kind of just a nodding kind of acceptance of, oh, that's your thing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm old enough to just, this is, I mean, I can't be changing now. I mean, you know, so I just do me. And I have little spots, I have little coffee shops that I go to, and like they know I'm doing nothing. Like on my Tuesday or Wednesday, like they're working, everyone's working. I'm not doing anything. I'm just, you know, killing time, or I'm just chatting. But I'm like, all of it is creativity. That's what I've realized. Like the goofing off and reading a book and sitting there. All of this is going to be wheat that I'm eventually going to harvest, you know.
Who do you listen to today, and what musicians out there inspire you?
I'm a sucker for the harmony, Bon Iver and Fleet Foxes, and who were we listening to? That lady downstairs, she was on NPR. With
Sierra Farrell.
I mean,
yeah.
But it's when I listen to music that I just the simplicity and the complexity, the subtle complexity, but just writing, like lazy writing. I mean, if I listen to the radio and I hear ooh baby 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 baby, I mean, I just feel like I'm trapped in an elevator with the most vacuous person I could ever, you know, just the emptiness of it.
Yeah.
The soullessness of it.
Yeah.
As it's masquerading as pop music or popular music or whatever. And like I've never been to a disco or a nightclub ever in my life. Ever. Even, you know, looking for a late drink or blah blah. Never would I find myself. Because what the hell can I learn in a place like that?
Right.
You know? So I'm just inspired, and I don't mean to be, you know, like, look, I love disco and I love pop music and I love great funk and soul and R&B, you know, all of it. I absolutely, but it has to connect to me, like even tongue in cheek or just pure fun.
Mm-hmm.
All of that inspires me. I just, you know, America has this incredible kind of, right now as we speak, if we jumped outside onto Bardstown Road and stopped all of the vans, like 10 of them is a van full of musicians who have just done like 500 miles to go, or getting to the next gig, or whatever they're doing. And you can always spot the bands who have done the miles. Mm-hmm. The Radioheads, the Grateful Dead, all of them. Yeah. You just go, like, look at these guys. Yeah. The chops, the communication that you don't even know is being communicated between the band. Yeah. You know, that tight, that just...
Say hi, Cait.
Hi. We've been talking all about you, Cait. We've been talking all about you.
Cait just snuck in to get some veggies before the show.
Yeah.
Cheese and a pepper, okay.
Okay, we'll bill you for that later. Yeah. So that inspires me, and there's a bit of a folk thing happening in Ireland. There's a lady called Lisa O'Neill. There's Hosier, of course, is enormous. Dermot Kennedy. They're all, and there's a kind of a Gaelic aspect, Gaelic Irish language thing going on as well. It's all part of the well that we've been doing from kind of like my world of kind of Glenn Hansard, Damien Rice, or you know, those guys. But then we were obsessed with, you know, Van Morrison and Dylan and Nick Drake and Cohen, and you know, but I see it continuing, which is fabulous, you know, really fabulous.
Is there a new album on the horizon?
There's scraps of paper. That's just where it starts.
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time. I've been touring through Europe. I've been going into Portugal and Switzerland and Italy and whatever, and I'm meeting kind of different musicians, and so there's the lifespan of an album. It seems, you know, when it's time to kind of disappear again. And I think I have maybe 2 more years of kind of epic travel. And, I feel like a Sherpa a lot of the time, I get on a plane and Mark, okay, oh, it's great to have you. And okay, so you're going to play, then the elephant, then the stripper, and then you again. And you go, all right,
Okay.
okay.
Gig's a gig.
What's the elephant's name? And so right now, like I'm the songs from the new album or the new-ish album, they have to get gig bashed.
Yeah.
They got to get beaten up.
Yeah.
And then they get beaten up, and you can always play that card. Then it goes into the deck of all the other songs I have.
Right.
So that's still ongoing. That's
Okay.
still, things have been beaten, and some work and some will die. I'll shoot them in the head. I'll take them around the back, and it's just, sorry it didn't work out. And,
Right.
it's not me, it's you. And,
Well, whenever the next time you or a producer or whatnot holds that gun to your head and puts you in the studio and makes you work, we're looking forward to it.
Right.
So thanks so much for spending time with us.
So lovely chat. Thank
Absolutely.
you. My pleasure.
And you can, find all of his stuff at markgeary.com. We'll put links to everything in the show notes. And now I'm going to go watch and listen to Mark play live. So
Great, man.
killer. Thanks again, man.
Thank you.
That's Mark Geary. The latest of his several albums is called In the Time of Locusts. We have links to it, Mark's website, and his streaming locations and such in our show notes at rootsmusicrambler.com. Hey, kids, don't go away. The Pickin' the Grinnin' segment is next. We'll go to break with the last throw of the dice from Mark Geary. This is Roots Music Rambler.
I was hungry, I was high, I was knocked off my feet, I don't know why. Rain falls on my front door. You're the world to me, my gravity. Without oxygen I can't breathe. I'm stolen for you, I fall at your feet. Keep me from the poison ivy. Put me on the path from the danger.
The rural way of life is about making everyone feel at home. Tractor Supply chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to transform intelligent customer service. Together, we put the power of AI to work across 2,200 stores, keeping things running seamlessly inside, curbside, and countryside. This is elevated customer experience. This is Tractor Supply with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
Welcome back to Roots Music Rambler. Glad everyone got to hear my little conversation there with Mark Geary. Fun chat and a fun chap as well. So jump over to those links there in the show notes and check out his music and give it a good listen. The album's really fantastic. It was, as he told you, kind of recorded at his cabin in the woods outside of Dublin during the pandemic mostly. So a lot of good soul-searching music and just a fun listen. And like we touched on in the interview, I really like a lot of his music because it's upbeat, positive, uplifting sounds, but then he's got these really dark, kind of deep lyrics, and I love that juxtaposition. So some good stuff there. Good stuff.
Nice.
Like that. All right, it's time for the Pickin' the Grinnin' segments. This is where Frank and I pick the people that we've been listening to lately. Might be a person, might be a band, might be an album, might be a song, could be a lot of different things. Just stuff that we're picking that's making us grin. Frank, I'm throwing you under the bus. Who's your Pickin' the Grinnin' for this week?
All right. So I kind of alluded to the fact that I may mention a band from your neck of the woods there, Jason. And I saw this band again at Crossroads Acoustic Music Festival in Seymour, Indiana in April. That was the second time I got to see them. The first time was last year at American Music Festival at Fitzgerald's. And at the time, I had never heard of them or I didn't know anything about them. But they were playing at a time when nobody else I wanted to see was playing. So I'm like, oh, let's go check them out. And that band is Magnolia Boulevard. So I may have mentioned them on the show before. I don't think that they have been an official pick in the Grinnin, but if they were, so be it, you know. But the second time, this last time I saw them, my second, it was just Maggie, the lead singer, Maggie Noel, and Ryan from the band. So, and because it was an acoustic festival, it was just the two of them and their guitars. And it was still so awesome. Maggie's voice is outstanding. She's got such power and blues, man. Oh my goodness. Like like a couple of her main influences are Susan Tedeschi and Bonnie Raitt. So, you know what those ladies sound like. So imagine both of them contained in this young, tall, but thin woman, and she belts it out. My goodness. And then when I saw them last year with the full band, I was blown away. They are based in Lexington, Kentucky. So I know I keep up with them and I check to see if they're going to be playing anywhere near me so I can go see them again. But it seems that they haven't made their way up this far north yet. So hopefully they do. And I would love to see Maggie and the band again. But for those of you in Kentucky and thereabouts, if they are coming through your town, definitely go see them.
Yeah, they are actually playing here in a few weeks at a club in Louisville called Zanzibar with Cam Clark and his orchestra, who I'm big on. Love Cam Clark. He's been a pick in the Grinnin of mine. I saw him at Waterfront Wednesday. The Waterfront Wednesday kicked off a couple of weeks ago here in Louisville, so he was the first opener of the season for the outdoor music here in Louisville. So, and he just did a fantastic job. Cam Clark is great. But the two of them, Magnolia Boulevard and Cam Clark, are performing together in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to very much try to be at that show. I actually got the scoop on Magnolia Boulevard 5 years ago. I was at the time working for the advertising agency that handled a lot of the social media content and helped out the CVB, the Convention and Visitors Bureau in Lexington, Kentucky, which is called Visit Lex. And their focus during the pandemic was, let's turn the attention on our local businesses and local arts community and whatnot to help the people who, don't have audiences, don't have crowds, don't have customers because of this pandemic. And let's try to do something instead of focusing on telling the world about Lexington. Let's tell the world about the people and places in Lexington so that maybe it can help them get through this tough time. And the Burl, which is a quite famous, popular live music spot in Lexington, they have the iconic stained glass window behind their stage and everything. They actually would have local bands come in and play a socially distanced set. There's no audience, just them. And they would record basically a high quality, like YouTube-like video. And what I did with that content was I would take the content from the Burl and we would repost it on Visit Lex's Facebook page. And so we were helping kind of spread the Burl was one of the many local businesses that Visit Lex was trying to help at that time. And Magnolia Boulevard, I think, did 2 or 3 of those sets. And so I got to see them before a lot of people outside of the Lexington area even knew who they were. That was my first exposure to them. And you're right, the first 2 or 3 lines out of Maggie's voice, and I was like, holy crap, they're great. So yeah, Magnolia Boulevard is thumbs up from me. I love those guys and gals. I have not, unfortunately, seen them live. I've seen them several times on these videos that I did with them.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to go see them live here pretty soon. So
well, I hope you get to see them.
I've got it on my calendar as long as nothing weird happens with the family, which, I'm from Kentucky. Weird shit happens to my family all the time. But I'm hoping that I can be there. I want to go see Cam again too, so it'll be fun. Anyway, all right, so my pick in the Grinnin this week is someone we've mentioned a couple times on the show. We've talked about her before, but I actually pushed, not stop, just pause a little bit. I pulled off the gas on buying new records over the last couple of weeks, or maybe a month or so. And instead of going and buying a bunch of new records, I started, I need to start re-listening to the records in my collection. I've got a nice collection now. I need to appreciate what I've got. So I started doing that, and one of the albums I pulled out and put on the other day, 2 or 3 songs into this album, I was like, God, this is a great album. And I don't think it got enough play or enough mention as being a great album when it first came out, probably about 9 months to a year ago. And that's Still Bright from Amethyst Kia. It's just an absolutely, I love, the whole album is so good, and she is so talented. And I first came across her because the first cut on the album is a duet with S.G. Goodman, who is a friend of the program and someone we've had on the show.
Great.
And so I bought this album based on essentially that one song and then one other. She's got a collaboration with Billy Strings as well that's really good. And so I picked that album up and listened to it the first time I bought it, with a group of other albums that I bought that weekend. And I was like, man, this is really good. Well, it's been 9 months probably since I listened to it, and I went back and listened to it again. And it's not just really good. It's a great album. It really is. And Amethyst Kia is fantastic. And so I just wanted to make sure that we called her out a little bit more because she's fantastic. And I love this album. I also have her previous album, which is called Wary and Strange. So Wary and Strange is one, and it's good to very good. And then Still Bright is the latest album, and it's great. So Amethyst Kia, we'll make sure there are links to all of those, the Magnolia Boulevards and the Amethyst Kias and all sorts of other stuff in the show notes at rootsmusicrambler.com. Frank, you got anything else for the greater good here?
I approve of your picking the Grinnin. Big fan of Amethyst Kia. I've seen her 2, maybe 3 times, and I'm going to see her again because she is on the lineup for Evanston Folk Festival,
Very nice.
which is coming up in September of this year. So 2nd year, remember I went to the inaugural festival last fall. So yeah, when I saw her name on the lineup, I'm like, oh, I am definitely going. I mean, there's a bunch of others too that I want to see, but she is so talented, and she slays on the banjo, and what's not to love?
Yeah. She's a good one. So if you haven't heard of her, haven't tried her out yet, hit the Spotify's. Links and stuff are in the show notes. Amethyst Kia, and of course, Magnolia Boulevard. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of the Old Roots Music Rambler. We are a production of Falls and Partners, copyright 2025. Our theme music is Sheepskin and Beeswax by Genticorum. Join us online at rootsmusicrambler.com and make sure you mash that subscribe or follow button so you remember to join us for the next Hoe-Down and Throwdown. She's Frank.
And he's Falls.
Whatever you do, kids, ramble on.